Now, the already hotly contested issue of migration is in the line for even more debate this week as the first asylum seekers are due to arrive on the Bibby Stockholm barge. Well, the Home Office Minister, Sarah Dines, is here in the studio for us. Good to see you today. Thanks very much. So we are expecting the first migrants to arrive there. Will you see their arrival as a success?
Certainly. It's part of our really hard pushed agenda to try and get people out of hotels. We need to save money. The British public expect it. We need to get refugees out of hotels, illegal migrants onto barges or other places to save money. £6 million a night it's costing us at the moment. It's too much.
It's a lot of money, but only 50 asylum seekers are initially expected, and we don't know how many will be housed there at the end of the day. It could only be as many as 500. It's largely symbolic, isn't it? Because this is a tiny proportion of the number that are being housed in hotels.
It's part of a wide range of places where we're going to accommodate people, but what it sends is a forceful message that there will be proper accommodation, but not luxurious. Luxurious hotel accommodation has been part of the pull, I'm afraid. There have been promises made abroad by the organised criminal gangs and organisations which are trying to get people into the country unlawfully, and they say you'll be staying in a very nice hotel in the middle of a town in England. That needs to stop. And the barge is just one of a wide range of other measures.
But how do you know that is part of the pull? We were told that the government scheme to deport people to Rwanda, would stop people. That was part of the pull, and the people thinking that they won't be staying in the UK and would be hopping straight on a plane would deter people. But it doesn't seem to have deterred people, does it? The numbers are a little down for this time of year crossing the small boats, but the weather has been atrocious. So, the chances are when the weather improves, they will shoot back up.
Well, Rwanda hasn't started yet. We're waiting for the Supreme Court judgment. We're confident that Rwanda is going to happen. However, at the moment, we need to make sure that it's basic but proper accommodation and not luxurious. If you come to the country from a safe country unlawfully, you can't expect to stay in a four-star hotel. So this is just one of many measures we're bringing in.
Will it be today? Are you fully expecting to see people arriving there today?
We're hopeful soon in coming days. You'll understand for operational reasons I'm not going to confirm that. But we're hoping in coming days that it will be imminent.
OK, so not necessarily today, but possibly. Any truth to reports that this idea that Priti Patel had a few years ago of sending people to Ascension Island could be renewed? I mean, doesn't that slightly suggest that you don't think the Rwanda plan is going to work if you're already looking at another alternative?
We're very confident that Rwanda is going to work, but of course lots of other alternatives are always discussed. It wouldn't be right to talk about any particular country, but you would expect the government to look at additional measures. But we're very confident that Rwanda is going to work.
But why Ascension Island then? I mean, it's a tiny island, such a long way away, with very few facilities and tiny infrastructure.
Well, I'm not going to confirm whether that's a possibility. We're looking at lots of different measures. We have discussions all the time, as any responsible government would with many countries.
But your critics will say that you're going round in circles. This was an idea that was mooted by Priti Patel. It now appears to be being floated again. If it was shown to not work the first time round, why talk about it again?
Well, times change. We look at all possibilities. This crisis in the Channel is urgent. We need to look at all possibilities, and that's what we're doing. We're determined to make sure there isn't the pull factor for illegal migrants to come to this country, basically to be abused by criminal organised gangs. These are international operations, and it's got to stop.
You talk about the pull factor. The government today is also trying to crack down on illegal migrants by increasing fines for landlords who house them and employers who give them jobs. I mean, critics will say that this is just the government shifting the blame. Isn't the real issue stopping the people getting here in the first place rather than finding those further down the food chain?
Well, it's a big picture. We need to stop all pull factors. And we know from social media that gangs will promise jobs here. They'll say it's easy to work in the UK if you're illegal. It's easy to gain accommodation if you're illegal. This is just one of the weapons we have in our armoury to make sure that the UK isn't as welcoming to illegal migrants that come from a safe country.
It's the pull factor that you're talking about, but there's also the push factor, isn't there, as well? And we spoke to campaigners last week who are concerned about international aid and how international development aid has been reduced to so many of these countries that these people are coming from. And they're arguing that if the British government hadn't reduced the amount that it was actually putting into these countries to make them better places to live, there wouldn't be such a push factor as well. Do you accept that that is part of the problem?
Well, I don't really, because the UK is a very generous country, and like many other developed countries, we do put a lot of money upstream, as they call it,
But
to
we've massively
countries.
reduced the amount we've put in.
Well, we put in huge amounts of money, which is only right. However, what you mustn't forget is people are not just stopping in the first or the second, the third or the fourth country they go through. They're coming to the UK for a reason. So it's not all about upstream. It's just part of a bigger picture.
But when we look at the amounts of money, you're saying we're putting huge amounts of money in, but we've reduced, for example, the amount of money going into Afghanistan, which is really impacting on women in Afghanistan and young girls in Afghanistan. Is this the right kind of message that we should be sending to the rest of the world about how the UK regards its responsibilities?
We are spending huge amounts of money in Afghanistan and many other countries, as you would expect.
It's gone down by about 60%.
However, we are theoretically and also practically giving assistance. We also support NGOs in this country that work with refugees, particularly on women's lot in Afghanistan, as you would expect. But we also do push women's rights across the whole world. We're very good at that.
Maria Caulfield, the Health Minister, spoke last week about when Labour get into power. Is it your front bench, do you think, resolved to the fact that Labour will win the next election?
Well, that's not what I'm feeling. I think she may have misspoken there, as many people do. I think we've got a reasonable chance of winning the election, and we're working really hard for that. And I think the British public are now just beginning to realise that Keir Starmer is flip-flopping over what he believes. I mean, it's quite shocking, really, that the Labour Party and Keir Starmer have accepted £1.5 million from the main backer of Just Stop Oil. The British public need to see that. And I think they're just beginning to understand that what they get with Keir Starmer is really uncertain, and that Just Stop Oil, these extremists, are actually driving the central policy on this of the Labour Party. That's pretty scary.
Do you think that will put people who can't afford to pay their mortgages or can't afford to pay their energy bills off voting, though?
Well, things are difficult for everybody, and I think that's accepted around the world. That the war in Ukraine has had ripples across the whole world.
So, though, in the UK?
Well, I think it affects everybody. In Europe are having very difficult times. We're getting better in the economy. The OECD are now acknowledging that our inflation is on a downwards trajectory, and we're making progress. Things are tough, but we are making progress.
Can I just ask you about a story that Sky News has been running today? I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but it's about the RAF and about employment. The RAF was found to have broken discrimination laws. Still, nobody senior has been held to account for that. Do you think somebody should be?
Well, I'm sure they're talking about it at the moment. It's very important that we are fair to all parts of our population, and it's not right that one area, one particular sex is discriminated against. So I'm pleased that there was the finding and that we can get more people into the RAF.
But don't we need action rather than just talking about it?
Well, there's a lot of need for action in all manner of things across the government. I'm working very hard in safeguarding issues to make sure we do take action. And what I've noticed with the present Prime Minister is that there is a little bit of a ripple effect of more action being taken. I'm working incredibly hard with the police in my safeguarding role, and I do notice police forces across the country are improving the way they're investigating crimes, and I'm sure that's happening in other areas such as employment law.
You mentioned police and investigations. Will the government apologise for the miscarriage of justice against Andrew Malkinson? He says he would like an apology from the government. Well,
I'm very, very pleased that the thing which is just has happened and that he won't have to pay for board and lodging when he was wrongly convicted. It's dreadful that he was wrongly convicted, and I don't think he should have to pay for his board and lodging. And I think Alex Chalk, the Lord Chancellor, was absolutely right about that.
But should the government apologise?
Well, I'm happy to say sorry for people who've been wrongly convicted, and it's the right thing to do to make sure they don't have to pay board and lodging.
Sarah Dines, Minister for Safeguarding, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.